Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is the story about Naruto. What if Naruto trained by Anko? Movie 18. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please do support for more awesome content and also hit the subscribe button and share this video with your friends and also support the creator of this fanfic. I have created a playlist where you can find out all the previous parts of this video, link in the description, and check out the other video as well. So let's start the video. The offer. It had been 2 days since Naruto had woken up after being defeated by Iwa's Stone Ox, and Naruto had been doing some soul searching. Being manhandled by the man had shown him that he wasn't as strong as he believed to be. Sure, he had fought some amazing opponents, and by chance, and with some skill he had managed to defeat most of them, albeit with a lot of trouble. This time, however, he had been brutally defeated. No matter what he did, he was unable to defeat the Stone Ox. He knew that much, and for some reason he thought that there would be a next time where he would face the man. If he stayed like this, he would never be able to defeat him. It was a humbling thought, and Naruto was a bit disgusted when he realized that he had gotten a bit arrogant over the last few months. That would have to change, and he would change right now, he swore to himself. On the other hand, he couldn't really blame himself for being a bit confident in his skills. He had made some amazing progress ever since he graduated from the academy. When he became a Chunin, he had made the first step towards realizing his dream, and he felt invincible at the time. Naruto wandered around the forest that surrounded Tazuna's house and sat down in a clearing. It was a beautiful place that filled him with a feeling of peace and tranquility. He took out one of his storage scrolls and unsealed a bunch of notes that he always carried with him. The notes were his personal training schedule and any ideas he might come up with. More than once he had thought up something, only to forget it later on, so now he wrote down anything he thought up, no matter how insignificant it might seem at that time. He looked over his schedule with a critical eye and pondered where he could make some changes. I've definitely been focusing too much on ninjutsu instead of strength and speed training. He mused out loud. He took his pen and started scribbling some new exercises that Guy had proposed to the group during their team training. They didn't do those exercises because they only had that much time, so they were to be done individually. He would have to remember to thank Guy-sensei for the help when he got back to Konoha. Too bad Lee was still injured, or he would have asked him to be sparring partners, but then he realized that he would be leaving Konoha in a few months, so it wouldn't have mattered anyway. Alright, now I've got a new training schedule for strength and speed. What's next? Naruto said, thinking deeply. He had been working on his ninjutsu for a long time, and while he had a few ideas in his head, he had been focusing on his special jutsu over the past few months. It was as good as ready now, he only needed to get used to it. He had even put the Hiraishin on the back burner so he could work on this jutsu. Guess I could also concentrate a little more on Fuinjutsu, Naruto said before writing a few things down as well. The advantage was that he could work on this area while he was relaxing at home after he had done all his other training. He had been successful in creating his explosive tags, and he did enjoy working on it, although he didn't care much about all the mathematics that came with it. He knew that Iro Sennin was considered a Fuinjutsu master, so he was sure that the man would teach him a lot about the subject during their training trip. Therefore, he thought it couldn't hurt to be ahead of his studies by the time he left Konoha. Thinking of leaving Konoha made him sad and excited at the same time. He didn't want to leave his home, and he definitely didn't want to leave Anko and his friends. 3 years was a long time after all, and a lot could happen. He wasn't really worried about Anko forgetting about him, as they had already pledged themselves to each other, but still the thought of not seeing her for such a long period was anything but enjoyable. He would miss the village and his friends. He was sure of that, but on the other hand, he got to travel with one of the strongest shinobi, even though the man was a pervert. If the man kept his word, then Naruto would be much stronger after 3 years of training with the man. Jiraiya could be a great teacher, but he was easily distracted as soon as there was a pretty girl in sight. Naruto hoped this wouldn't affect his training. Naruto slowly got up and resealed his notes into the storage scroll before putting it away. He would continue working on his schedule later on. For now, he wanted to spend some time with his friends. While Naruto and Sasuke were resting and healing from their injuries, Team 8 and Sakura had been training and exercising under the watchful eye of Kakashi. Naruto wanted to join, but Kakashi refused, saying that he didn't want Naruto to get hurt because he wasn't fully healed yet. In truth, Kakashi knew that thanks to his healing ability Naruto was as good as cured, but he didn't want to take any chances. Anko would go ballistic if she heard that Naruto got hurt while under his supervision. Reaching the backyard of Tazuna's house, Naruto saw Sakura and Hinata sitting in the shadow with numerous scrolls laid out around them. "Hey girls, what are you working on?" He was interested. "Oh, we're just working on some scrolls Tsunade-sama ordered us to read," Sakura said, looking up. She was amazed that Naruto was already healed from his injuries. She knew something was up with that, but she knew better than to ask about it. Naruto wouldn't tell her anything. She felt a little bad about not being trusted with his secrets, but he had told her that one day he would tell everyone, so she had resigned herself to waiting until that day came. "Man, am I glad that I'm not studying to be a medic," Naruto said after reading a small section on one of the scrolls. "This is way too complicated for me. There's that, and then there is the fact that Tsunade-sama is a really strict teacher." Hinata grinned. "She's merciless when it comes to training." "Ha, I'll bet you, she's nothing compared to Anko-chan." Naruto laughed loudly. "I remember our time in the forest all too well. She was brutal, let me you. I'll be sure to tell her you said that, Naruto-kun," Hinata said, grinning mischievously. Naruto immediately started begging Hinata not to tell anything to Anko. If she heard about it, he would be facing some serious punishment, and no matter how strong he got, she would always find a way to kick him behind. Hinata and Sakura found it hilarious that someone like Naruto, who had fought with some of the strongest shinobi ever, was deadly afraid of his girlfriend. They teased him a bit before Hinata promised she wouldn't tell anything to Anko. The girls then shooed Naruto away, saying that they had a lot of reading to do. Thanking his lucky stars, Naruto went over to where Kiba and Shino were engaged in a spar and sat down next to Kakashi, who was reading in his perverted book just like always. "Hey Kakashi-sensei," Naruto said, greeting his friend and teacher. "Oh, hi there Naruto, how are you doing?" Kakashi said, lowering his book. Naruto and Kakashi had established some kind of bond after Kakashi had told him stories about his time on Minato's team. He viewed his sensei's son as a nephew of some sort. "I'm fine, though I'm getting a bit restless by doing nothing," Naruto admitted. "There are plenty of things you can work on besides the normal training," Kakashi said, although he understood what Naruto was feeling. "Yeah, but I'm not in the mood to work on my fuinjutsu," Naruto said. "It's like my body is eager to start training again, especially after being shown how much I can still improve. I must tell Naruto that I'm impressed with how you're dealing with all this," Kakashi said calmly. "A lot of people would get discouraged or frustrated. Honestly, I'm a bit frustrated with myself," Naruto said. "But not with getting my ass handed to me. I'm more frustrated with the fact that I had gotten a little too confident. I'm just glad that this happened now instead of later when I'm facing Akatsuki or something like that. That's a good way to see things." Kakashi nodded. He was glad that Naruto understood this, unlike himself when he had gotten so arrogant and stubborn when he was younger. It had taken the death of his teammate to show him how wrong he was. The day his teammate died still haunted him. Inside Tazuna's house, a wounded and hurting Sasuke was just waking up. He had woken up the day before, but only for an hour or two before falling back asleep. According to Sakura and Hinata, he had a few broken ribs, a painful jaw, a sprained ankle, and a concussion. They had healed him, but he still needed to take it easy as his broken bones were still very tender. Even sitting up hurts like hell at the moment. He looked around and saw that he was alone in the room, and this suited him just fine. He didn't need to be coddled like some baby just because he was hurt. After a few minutes of trying to get comfortable, he started remembering what had happened to put him in this situation. He clearly remembered dealing with those thugs that didn't even represent a challenge and how he encountered that missing nin from Iwa. His face darkened for a second before turning in an expression of pain. Clearly his jaw wasn't as healed as he thought it was. He thought back on how he had fought the man and how nothing he tried seemed to work. He had used everything he got, but no matter how hard he tried, he was defeated quite easily. It was a serious blow to his ego. He had been training so hard over the past few months, and yet some missing nin from Iwa defeated him like he was nothing. Not only that, he insulted him and the Uchiha name, which was unacceptable for Sasuke. "I swear you'll pay for mocking me," Sasuke thought furiously. But what really pissed him off was the fact that he had been saved by his rival. Oh, how he disliked the dope. Before he hated the fact that Naruto was getting stronger much faster than he was, but he felt relatively sure that he could catch up if he trained hard enough. So for the past months Sasuke trained like crazy. Every free moment was spent mastering new techniques, practicing his Taijutsu and his Sharingan. He was stronger than he ever was and was getting stronger every day, but apparently it wasn't enough. Each time he thought that he had caught up to Naruto he got shot down again when he noticed that Naruto was still stronger than him. It was infuriating to say the least. He also couldn't understand why the rest of the group, Jounin senseis included, seemed so impressed with the blonde. Each day during training Naruto spoke with the group, laughing and fooling around, and yet he still got stronger every day. Naruto was considered one of them, part of the group, while he was seen as just another member, just another young shinobi they had to teach. So what if Naruto was the son of Yondaime? He was an Uchiha for crying out loud, that should mean something. Though he had to admit that he didn't really care about being accepted, he was sure that they taught Naruto on the side because of who his father was. His thoughts were interrupted when he heard Tazuna's daughter Tsunami yell that lunch was ready. He knew that someone would check up on him to see how he was doing. So much the better, because he wanted to know what had happened after he lost consciousness. He rolled his eyes when he heard Kiba challenge Naruto to get inside first, and of course Naruto accepted. A few minutes later the group was enjoying lunch, and he patiently waited. Half an hour later he heard someone walk up the stairs, and the door opened. Sasuke looked impassively when Kakashi's head appeared to look inside the room. "Ah Sasuke, glad to see you're awake. How are you feeling?" Kakashi asked his student. "How do you think I'm feeling?" Sasuke said, annoyed already. "Yes, well, are you feeling hungry?" Kakashi said, pretending he didn't notice the tone his student was using. "I'll get Sakura or Hinata to bring you some food." "HN." Sasuke said, but he nodded all the same, as he was hungry. Kakashi went back downstairs and told the rest that Sasuke was awake. Sakura volunteered to bring him some food, so she took a plate and filled it with some leftovers. She also said that she would check his injuries once he was finished eating. Once she was gone from the room, Naruto asked how Sasuke was doing. "Well, he seems pretty angry about being injured," Kakashi said before taking out his favorite book. Later that afternoon Naruto and the gang went upstairs to visit Sasuke. He didn't like the boy very much, but he was an injured comrade, so he thought it was only normal to visit him. He also knew Sasuke didn't like him at all, but he hoped they would be able to get along. Sakura had told them that his injuries were healing well, but it would take several more days before he was well enough to travel. While he would be able to walk around by tomorrow, he wouldn't be able to jump trees and run at shinobi speed. "What do you want?" Sasuke asked, irritated. It was bad enough that he was confined to this bed, but now they all have to come see him too. "We just wanted to know how you were doing," Kiba said, already regretting his decision to come. "No need to get all cranky about it. Calm down, Kiba-kun, Sasuke is just tired and injured," Hinata whispered to him. Sasuke just ignored the group for a few seconds and then glared at Naruto, who noticed a boy looking at him. Naruto could tell that his presence was angering Sasuke, so he stayed quiet. There was no need to aggravate the situation by opening his mouth. Sasuke, however, kept glaring at him, and he even leaked a bit of killing intent. It was weak, and you could see that Sasuke was trying to calm himself down. "So did you come here to gloat about defeating that missing nin?" he sneered at Naruto. "I didn't defeat Sasuke. I got my ass handed to me pretty badly," Naruto said honestly. "He was way too strong for us. There was no way that we could have defeated him. Looks like the great Namikaze isn't so great after all," Sasuke said, trying to provoke Naruto. "Shut up, Sasuke, you didn't do much better. You should thank Naruto for saving your life," Kiba said angrily. This was the wrong thing to say, as Sasuke's face betrayed how furious he was about that. "Alright, let's go everyone, Sasuke still needs to rest," Hinata said quickly before things got out of hand. The others just nodded and left the room. "You think you're so great and all, but compared to me you're nothing," Sasuke said when Naruto turned to leave. "Don't think I'll forget what you've done to me, Dobe." "And what might that be, Sasuke?" Naruto said, sighing. "I didn't ask for your help. I didn't need your help," Sasuke said. "One day I'll get my revenge, count on it. I'll be waiting for Sasuke, though I hope it never happens," Naruto said, closing the door. He wasn't surprised at Sasuke's reaction. In fact, he had expected worse, but he figured that being injured had something to do with that. He wouldn't have been surprised if Sasuke attacked him if he had been able to. Downstairs, the rest of the genin were discussing what had happened. Kiba was very agitated and restless, and no matter what anyone said, he wasn't able to calm down. The Uchiha had a way of getting under your skin, and for someone like Kiba who was very loyal to his friends, it was hard not to punch the boy in the face. Shino wasn't surprised at all at how Sasuke acted, so he was fine. Hinata and Sakura were sitting in a corner talking. Kakashi entered the room at the same time as Naruto and asked what had happened. He shook his head, a bit disappointed in his student, and promised to talk to him. "It's okay, Kakashi-sensei," Naruto said. "I understand how Sasuke's feeling at the moment." "Naruto, you can't just accept Sasuke treating you like that," Kiba roared, upset. "You saved his life. He should be thanking you instead of insulting you." "Don't you see, Kiba?" Naruto explained. "It's because I saved his life that he's so angry at me. He feels humiliated that he needed someone to save him." "So?" Kiba asked, not really understanding what Naruto wanted to say. "Naruto is right, Kiba," Kakashi said. "Ever since he started at the academy, Sasuke has been one of the best, if not the best in his class, while Naruto, although not by his fault, was the last in his class." Once he noticed how strong Naruto had become, he felt threatened. All of the sudden a rival appears, and he doesn't know how to deal with that. Not only that, Naruto became a Chunin when he didn't. His pride had been hurt, and now that Naruto saved his life from an enemy that defeated him with ease, well, he feels that he has been humiliated, and his pride won't stand for it. That's why he's so mad at me right now. Naruto nodded at Kakashi's explanation. "And I understand that feeling very well. I'm pretty sure none of us would like to be saved by the one person we see as a rival. Still, it's no reason to react the way he did," Kakashi said, not want to condone his student's actions. Sasuke has always been proud of his name and skills. That combined with his desire to become stronger so he can defeat his brother and we get fireworks. He sees everyone that's stronger than him as a threat to his goals. Instead of focusing on his own progress, he looks at others and measures himself to them. Naruto explained. Because of that, he doesn't notice his own progress, and it feels like he's not getting stronger at all. The group decided to leave Sasuke alone for the rest of the day, since they didn't want things to get worse. Unfortunately, leaving him alone meant also giving him time to brood and stew in his anger. The more Sasuke thought about what happened over the past few months, the angrier he got. It was becoming clear that he wasn't getting stronger while staying in the village. No matter the training they gave him, he needed more. Those losers might be happy with learning D or C rank jutsu, but he needed more powerful things. He snorted. It wasn't like he was going to defeat his brother with those child jutsu. But he knew his teachers in Konoha were unwilling to teach him stronger jutsu, saying that he needed to learn the basics before going over to the advanced material. No, the longer he thought about it, the more leaving the village seemed like a good idea. Then again, he didn't have anywhere to go, and he wasn't foolish enough to believe that Konoha was just going to let him leave. He would need to disappear, but that was easier said than done. If he wasn't an Uchiha with one of the best Kekkei Genkai in the village, they might have declared him a low-level missing nin, but since he was an Uchiha, they would search high and low for him. The village wouldn't want to lose the powers of the Sharingan. He was sure of that. He cursed as he couldn't think of a way to successfully disappear. He looked outside, surprised to see that it was already getting dark. Apparently, he had been thinking for a long time. He closed his eyes for a bit and slowly drifted into a restless slumber. Tsunami had gone upstairs to bring the young shinobi some dinner, but saw that he was sleeping, so she gently put the food on the nightstand and left. The boy was hurt, and when hurt, the best thing to do was rest, in her opinion. She would tell the group downstairs to keep quiet so they wouldn't disturb him. Earlier that day in Konoha, the Jounin group consisting of Anko, Kurenai, Guy, and Asuma were having a meeting. Nothing fancy or shockingly important was going on during the meeting, but it was more like friends getting together to discuss how things were going with their students. Guy, however, was insanely happy for the past few days. The reason for this was that Lee had had his last surgery to remove the bone fragments logged near his spine. Tsunade and her medical team had done the impossible in his eyes by succeeding to remove every fragment without any complications. This meant that once Lee had healed and started his rehab, he would be able to join the training and continue to be a shinobi. When Tsunade had delivered the news to him and his student, they both cried of joy and thanked Tsunade over and over again. The rest of the students had of course congratulated Lee with his full recovery and spent a lot of time with him. "So any news from your team?" Asuma asked Kurenai and Anko. Kakashi sent a report that they had completed the mission, but they were staying a few days to let their injuries heal. Kurenai said while waving the smoke of Asuma's cigarette away from her. "Injuries? I thought they had to deal with some thugs and thieves." Asuma asked. "No, there were a few missing nin involved. Most of them were low level, but one was Iowa's Stone Ox." Kurenai answered. At this, Asuma's cigarette dropped from his mouth, but he was too shocked to notice it. It was only when he felt the cigarette burn through his pants that he jumped up from the sudden pain. "Iowa's Stone Ox?" Asuma and Guy were surprised. "What the hell does a guy like that do with a few low-level missing nins?" "Beats me, but he was there, and Sasuke and Naruto fought him." Kurenai shrugged. "Don't worry, they're fine. A bit beat up, but fine. Yash Naruto-kun's and Sasuke-kun's youth is blazing strongly to be able to survive a fight with such an opponent." Guy proclaimed loudly, making the others cringe at the volume of his voice. "Goddamn it, Guy, how many times do we have to tell you not to shout?" Anko yelled with a kunai in her hands. "Sorry." A frightened Guy said quickly. "Besides, they didn't survive. He let them live." Kurenai said, picking up the previous topic. "Lucky kids." Asuma said, grinning. "Lucky my foot." Anko muttered. "This is the second time a mission from Wave gets bumped up from sea to an air rank mission. I'm going to have a few words with Tazuna if I ever see him again." "Relax, Anko, he's fine, and he'll be back in a few days." Kurenai said, comforting her friend. "Only to leave in a few weeks, and then he'll be gone for 3 years." Anko said, a bit sad. She didn't want to be a crybaby about it, but it just hit her a few days ago how long he would be gone. At first she was against it, but then she realized Naruto needed the training, and she had accepted the fact. Now she was unsure how she felt about it. 3 years is such a long time. In an attempt to cheer her friend up, Kurenai started to talk about other stuff. She felt for her friend, but there wasn't much she could do about it except being there for her. A few drinks later, Anko's mood had brightened a bit, especially when some rookie Chunin started to hit on her, and she got to scare him away. Poor boy would think twice before he approached a woman. From now on, she was sure of that. In the wave, someone slowly and carefully made his way to Tazuna's house. The figure was using the shadows and landmarks to hide him, and he was sure nobody had seen him. When he reached the backyard of the house, he paused for a few minutes to check for traps. Seeing none, he made his way over to the house and climbed up the wall to the second-floor window. Once he reached the window, he looked inside and smiled, seeing that his target was there just like he was told by his teammates. Slowly opening the window, careful not to make any sound that might alert the other shinobis, he stepped inside. He took out a few seals that his master had given him. The seals were designed to isolate a room when placed on the 4 walls. When done correctly, no sound could leave the room, making it perfectly safe to speak instead of whispering. Those kinds of seals were also used in the office of the Hokage, for example, or other places where secret information was handled. Once the seals were in place, he kicked the bed, waking the Uchiha up. What?" Sasuke said groggily. He then saw someone standing in his room and immediately raised his guard. He knew that if someone came to kill him, he wouldn't stand a chance with his injuries. "Hello, Sasuke-kun. It has been a while since we've last seen each other," the unknown person said before stepping into the light. "Kabuto? What are you doing here? What do you want from me?" Sasuke was surprised to see the traitor. After the Chunin exams, Kabuto had been exposed as a spy for Orochimaru, so it wasn't a surprise that he left Konoha. "Wow, that missing nin sure did a number on you, didn't he?" Kabuto jokes. "Shut up. What do you want?" Sasuke hissed angrily. "Straight to the point, I see. Well, I can live with that. The reason I'm here is to give you a proposition," Kabuto said. "What kind of proposition?" Sasuke interrupted. "If you would listen, then you would know." Kabuto sighed loudly. He hated being interrupted by someone. It was such a rude thing to do. "I know your dream, Sasuke. You want to defeat Itachi, but to do that you need power. Let me guess, you can give me that power?" Sasuke snorted. "No, I can't, but Orochimaru-sama can," Kabuto said, knowing he would have the Uchiha's attention now. "The Sannin who attacked Konoha?" Sasuke said while putting his hand on his shoulder where the cursed seal was. "Why would he give me power? Orochimaru-sama knows talent when he sees it. He also said that he sees a lot of himself in you." Kabuto said, smirking. He too was a genius who was held back by his village and his teacher. That's why he left Konoha, so he could become stronger and learn more and more powerful jutsu. Orochimaru-sama is the strongest of the Sannin, and he knows thousands of techniques that nobody else knows about, not even your brother. And what does he want in return? Sasuke asked, knowing there had to be more to this deal than Kabuto mentioned. All he wants in return is your loyalty. Kabuto smiled. And for me to leave my village. Sasuke argued back. A small price to pay for getting enough power to defeat your brother. Kabuto shrugged. Think of it this way, if you get strong enough to defeat your brother, then you're more than strong enough to humiliate Naruto-kun just like he did to you. How do you know about that? Sasuke hissed loudly. Orochimaru-sama has been interested in you for quite a while now. We've been following you for days waiting for the right time to talk to you. Kabuto explained. If you're willing to join us, we'll be waiting for you in a large cave just south of here. Come and find us when you're healed, and then we'll take you to Orochimaru-sama. They won't just let me go. They will try to stop me, you know that, right? Sasuke said. Don't worry about that. We're more than strong enough to deal with a few genin. Kabuto laughed. I hope to see you in a few days, Sasuke-kun. It took Sasuke 2 more days before he was declared healthy and in full capacity. Over the past 2 days he had been considering Orochimaru's offer, and he was seriously thinking about accepting. He wasn't stupid, however. He knew there were things that he didn't know about. People like Orochimaru never did anything without expecting something in return, but that was alright. He would use the Sannin's power and knowledge to get stronger, and once he had everything he wanted, he would deal with the man himself. It might take a while, but he was confident that he would become strong enough to succeed. The only thing he had to do now was leave during the night before they left Wave. Kakashi had ordered them to pack as soon as Hinata and Sakura declared Sasuke to be fully healed. He knew the kids were eager to return home, and they had imposed on Tezuna's family for way too long. The trip back to Konoha would take several hours if they traveled at high speed while taking a break every few hours. For that reason he decided to leave the next morning, so everyone was well rested. He too was eager to get back to Konoha. He had almost finished his book, and he knew Jiraiya-sama's new book would be out soon. Alright, troops, gather around. Now that we're healed and rested, we'll leave tomorrow morning at the crack of dawn. So better get some rest, because we'll travel fast on the way back to Konoha. Kakashi said, earning a few groans from Sakura. Later that night around 2 a.m. Sasuke gathered his things and crept out the house by crawling out his window. Luckily for him, his room was at the back of the house, so he was pretty sure no one could hear or see him leaving. He disappeared into the forest, never looking back. He remembered Kabuto's words and headed out to where he would be waiting. The Otonins were waiting for Sasuke inside a cave. It had been a long couple of days for all of them. Kabuto was almost ready to kill the Tayuya girl since she did nothing but question his sexuality and kept insulting him. Then of course was her constant swearing and cursing that really irritated him. Another of his team, called Yorubu, constantly complained about being hungry, which then made Tayuya insult him by starting a verbal fight. His other companions Kitamaro and the twins Seiken and Yukon were just as irritated as he was, but they were already used to it. The only one of the Sound Four he could stand was Kamimuro, but sadly his disease had claimed his life a few weeks ago. Kabuto remembered that day very well because Orochimaru had been furious at losing one of his strongest shinobi. That's why he ordered Kabuto on this mission, to ensure that nothing went wrong. Suddenly Kitamaru silenced them all by alerting them that someone had tripped one of his traps. The trap wasn't designed to kill, but rather to inform that someone was closing in on them. 5 minutes later a figure entered the cave. "Welcome, Sasuke. I'm glad to see you accepted our offer," Kabuto said, motioning him to come closer. "Whatever. Now give me that power you told me about," Sasuke said. "This is the one Orochimaru wants?" Tayuya snorted. "Look at him. He's pathetic. I could kick his ass in seconds." "Tayuya, please refrain from insulting Sasuke-kun," Kabuto said to her. His look told her to shut up or deal with the consequences. "Right, Sasuke-kun, why don't you sit down and we'll explain what is going to happen." Sasuke took off his backpack and looked at the shinobi around him. "Like I said, we can make you stronger, but there's a risk. You see, Orochimaru-sama gifted you with a seal that gives incredible power. You're talking about the seal that appeared when he bit me during the Chunin exams." Sasuke nodded. But that's been sealed off by Kakashi. Please have a little more confidence in Orochimaru-sama's work. Kabuto said, smiling. The only reason that the restriction seal is still working is because the seal you have is incomplete. Your seal is only at level 1. Sasuke was surprised when he heard that. He remembered the feeling he got when his seal first activated during his time in the Forest of Death. He had never felt anything like it, the power he felt was amazing, and that was an incomplete seal? How strong would he get if the seal was completed? All doubt he had about leaving Konoha left his head when he realized that once more they had hindered his progress by putting a restriction seal on him. How do I get a complete seal? Sasuke demanded to know. There's a way, but it's not without risk like I said. Kabuto nodded. There's a level 2 cursed seal, but to acquire that level you must allow your body to adjust itself to it. The seal itself is not without danger, if you didn't know that already. The 4 you see here all have cursed seals just like you do, so they can tell you more about it later on. Now let us proceed. Kabuto said, taking out a small glass container with a few pills in it. This pill is called Sashingen, and it forcefully increases the seal to level 2. So all I have to do is take a little pill? Sasuke snorted. No, if you would just take the pill you would die in a matter of minutes. Kabuto laughed at Sasuke's ignorance. But don't worry, that's why these guys are here. They will put you inside this pail, Kabuto showed the wooden barrel. And put a barrier around you that will put you into a temporary coma until your body is used to the seal's full power. And you're sure that their skills will be enough to keep me alive? Sasuke asked, a bit worried. Listen prick, we were the ones who protected Orochimaru by erecting that barrier during the attack. Our skill with seals and barriers are impeccable. Tayuya hissed at him. She instantly disliked the Uchiha, but who was she to argue with? Sasuke ignored her, but turned back to Kabuto who nodded, showing he had full confidence in their skills. Thinking about how this power would allow him to become stronger and possibly kill his brother, the Uchiha swallowed the pill. In a matter of seconds his body screamed out in pain, and he collapsed. The Sound 4 didn't waste any time and shoved Sasuke into the barrel and started doing hand seals. Time was of the essence, and once the hand seals were finished a large black mist appeared in the cave just above the barrel. With a shout of Shikoku Mujin, the black mist was directed into the barrel, sealing Sasuke inside. Seiken then took out some paper tags and drew some seals on it before throwing them at the barrel and said Huin Fuikoku, which protected the barrel from opening up before Sasuke was awake. Good job. Now we wait for dawn, and then we'll set out for Oto. Kabuto said. Why wait? Let's move out now. Seiken asked. I don't think it's a good idea to travel in the dark with our precious cargo. Kabuto said. We don't want to take any risks and end up hurting Sasuke. Fine. Seiken said, letting the matter drop, though personally he thought it would be better for them to leave right away. How will you handle this, Naruto-kun? Will you chase after us, or will you abandon your fellow shinobi? Kabuto thought. He hoped to encounter the blonde if he chose to chase after them. He could hardly wait to get some payback on the boy. The next morning before dawn, Kakashi was preparing for the trip back to Konoha. Frankly, he was glad to leave Wave. Not because he didn't like it here or disliked the people, but because he could feel that something bad was about to happen. The tension in the air was noticeable to any trained shinobi. He also felt the tension between the teams. Sasuke's continuous taunting of the others and his arrogant behavior were causing some serious problems. He wished he could say that the rest of the genin did their share of causing the problems, but that would be a lie. He had noticed how much the rest were trying to avoid the Uchiha just to reduce the tension. He was seriously disappointed in his pupil. He had talked to him once again, but just like every time before, Sasuke ignored his advice. Kakashi wondered how Sasuke had gotten this arrogant, but he knew the answer anyway. Coming from a major clan that was renowned to be one of the best would make anyone feel a little arrogance, but because of him being the only one left, the village was willing to jump to his every whim. Kakashi shook his head and vowed to try again later on. Good morning, Kakashi-sensei. Hinata said, entering the living room. Good morning, Hinata. Are the others up yet? Kakashi asked, looking up from his book. Sakura-chan is almost ready, and I heard Naruto talking to Shino. Hinata said before sitting down at the breakfast table. I bet they're trying to get Kiba to get up. Alright, we'll leave as soon as everyone is ready. Kakashi nodded. Upstairs, Naruto and Shino were trying to wake up Kiba. So far they didn't have any luck, and Naruto was getting annoyed at his teammate, so he did the only thing he could think of. He raced to the bathroom and filled a bucket with ice-cold water. He winked at Shino, who smirked and backed up a little so he wouldn't get caught in the crossfire. Naruto emptied the bucket on Kiba, who immediately jumped up from the bed cursing and yelling at Naruto. "Guess Kiba-kun is up as well." Hinata laughed. She had a good idea what had made Kiba that angry. "A bucket of ice-cold water will do that to you." Naruto laughed when he came down the stairs. "Oi Naruto, could you go check Sasuke and see if he's awake yet?" Kakashi asked Naruto. "Sure thing, Kakashi-sensei," Naruto said before bounding up the stairs again. Naruto knocked on the door of Sasuke's bedroom asking him if he was already up. When he got no answer, he silently opened the door and peeked inside but saw nobody, so he entered the room. He frowned when he saw that all of Sasuke's equipment was gone and the window was opened. Taking a closer look, he saw that the bed was made and no sign of Sasuke could be found in the room. It was like the boy had never stayed there. He quickly went downstairs to inform Kakashi. "Kakashi-sensei, Sasuke's room is empty and cleared out of anything that might indicate his stay there," Naruto said. "His equipment was gone and the window was open. Hinata, I want you to take Sakura and check out the surroundings. Look for a path or trace of anyone leaving," Kakashi immediately ordered. "Naruto, you and I will check the room again while Kiba and Shino try to find a trace of Sasuke by scent," Kakashi said urgently. "Hi," was the only answer that all genin gave. Kakashi and Naruto examined the room and came to the conclusion that no struggle or fight had taken place inside the room. This could mean two things: either Sasuke was drugged and unconscious or he left freely. Both of them hoped that it was the former, because if Sasuke left freely it would mark him as a missing nin. Kakashi peered outside the window but couldn't find anything that resembled a path. Taking Naruto, he went downstairs hoping that the rest had found something. "All right, report," Kakashi said. "Sakura and I found a path just outside the property that leads south of here," Hinata said. "It looks new for perhaps a few hours." "Great job, you two," Kakashi said before turning to Kiba and Shino. "We found a trace of a second smell in Sasuke's room that's familiar, but it's weak," Kiba said. "We can't be 100% sure, but we think it's Kabuto." This alarmed all of them, but especially Kakashi and Naruto, as they understood what this meant. If Kabuto was involved, then it meant that Orochimaru was the one behind all this. Kakashi bit his thumb and summoned Pakken and told the summon to hurry to Konoha and tell them of the situation. The dog summon nodded and disappeared in no time. "Pakken should reach Konoha within the next few hours," Kakashi said. "Meanwhile, we'll follow the trail and see what we can find." Everyone quickly eats your breakfast and prepares for battle. The genin didn't need to be told twice and started eating. They would need the energy if they encountered any enemy shinobi. Once they finished eating, they quickly prepared their weapons and pouches so they had everything at hand. All of this took at most 10 minutes, and after informing Tsunami and Tazuna of the situation, they left following the trail. Inside the cave, the Otonin were also getting ready to depart for their destination. Unfortunately for them, they had to travel back toward Hai no Kuni before they could travel to Orochimaru's hideout. They could take another route, but that would be the long way around, and they all knew Orochimaru wanted them to arrive as soon as possible. None of them wanted to receive his wrath if they made him wait too long. Kabuto was feeling a bit disappointed that the Konoha shinobi hadn't noticed Sasuke's disappearance yet, but he figured it was only a matter of time. He couldn't stall his group any longer, as even he wasn't free of being punished by the snake Sannin. The Sound Four were a pain in the ass, but they always got the job done in time, and if they told Orochimaru-sama that he was the one responsible for delaying them, he would pay the price. "All right, let's go. We have a lot of ground to cover, and unfortunately we can't just hop through the trees, as that would possibly injure Sasuke-kun," Kabuto ordered the Sound Four. "Yeah, whatever, dickhead," Tayuya snapped. "A girl shouldn't use that kind of language," Jirabu said. "Shut up, fatso," Tayuya yelled back. Kabuto sighed and once more wished he hadn't been assigned to this mission. The constant yelling and insulting of each other seriously got to him, and he wondered how the four of them worked so well when all they did was insult each other. Glad that this mission was almost over, he ordered them to shut up and he motioned them to follow him. While they couldn't hop trees in fear of injuring Sasuke, who was still inside the pale, they still could run at high speeds. Kakashi and his team had followed the trail for a few hours now and Hinata had finally been able to find a hiding spot thanks to her Byakugan. She notified the rest, and they slowly made their way over there in case there might be some traps. When they entered the cave they quickly inspected it, and Kiba told him that he definitely smelled Kabuto and Sasuke. He also found 4 other scents making the total of 5 nin plus Sasuke. No sign of struggle or a fight. Naruto said. At this point it's safe to say that Sasuke left of his own free will. Kakashi said. We'll chase them and bring them in for questioning. Whatever happens, try to bring Sasuke back alive so he can get a trial and be punished for his betrayal. Kakashi-sensei, why would Sasuke-kun leave Konoha? Sakura asked softly. There might be several reasons, but since Kabuto and Orochimaru are involved I think it's safe to say that they promised him power. Kakashi said sadly. Sasuke was very jealous of Naruto, Hinata, and you being trained by Jiraiya-sama and Tsunade-sama. If Orochimaru promised him the means to kill his brother, Sasuke wouldn't have hesitated. I can't believe that idiot. Naruto said loudly. Doesn't he know what Orochimaru is really after? All he wants is the Sharingan. While that is true, Naruto, we have to remember that Sasuke has been through a severe mental trauma only a few months ago. Kakashi said. That being said, it doesn't mean he can just betray Konoha without consequences. What would be the consequences of Kakashi-sensei? Kiba asked. It would depend on the investigation and his evaluation. Kakashi sighed. The best would be temporarily suspended and house arrest, while the worst would be execution. But let's not dwell on this now. We need to catch up on those shinobi before they get away. They nodded and took formation before jumping through the trees at high speeds. In Konoha, Tsunade and her council were discussing some village matters and how things were going with the villagers. So far she had been very satisfied with Hideki and the work he had done. He was very good at dealing with the villagers and they had accepted him as their relay to the Hokage. Minor issues were easily dealt with, and if there was a big enough problem Hideki brought it up with her. She had to admit that the system that Naruto had thought of was very efficient, even though they had to make some adjustments here and there. They were about to finish the meeting when Pakken arrived. Hokage-sama, there's a situation with Team 7 and 8. Pakken said hurriedly. Proceed. Tsunade said, fearing the worst. Uchiha Sasuke has left during the night and might have been either abducted or left on his own. There were no signs of a struggle, and Inyazuka Kiba caught the scent of Yakushi Kabuto. Pakken reported. Kakashi and his team are in pursuit and request possible backup. Goddammit, that stupid Uchiha. Tsunade cursed. This is Orochimaru's work, no doubt about it. I fear you're correct, Tsunade. Sandaime sighed. How will we proceed? Tsunade pressed a button that called the Anbu that was positioned outside her office. Get me a medical team with Mitarashi Anko and Yuhi Kurenai. She ordered, and Anbu left immediately. Why the medical team? Hideki asked. I have a feeling that they'll be needed. Tsunade sighed. Even though Hinata and Sakura are talented, they are only beginning to learn medical jutsu. If any of them is seriously injured they might not be able to help. It didn't take more than 10 minutes before Anko and Kurenai arrived at the tower and were informed of what had happened. Anko was furious that the Uchiha had left and endangered Naruto like that, and it took Kurenai almost 5 minutes to calm her down. Don't you get it? Anko said. Orochimaru somehow managed to convince the Uchiha that leaving Konoha was in his best interests, and I only see one way to do that. Meaning? Tsunade said, interested in Anko's opinion. He promised him power. Enough power to defeat Naruto and Itachi. Anko answered. That could be true. Sandaime said. Sasuke has always been focused on his revenge, and I've heard more than once that he was obsessed with getting stronger. Being privately taught by a Sannin would blind Sasuke enough to leave Konoha. Kurenai agreed. Alright, the two of you are to lead a medical team and help capture any shinobi involved in the defection of Uchiha Sasuke. Tsunade ordered. You are also to apprehend Uchiha Sasuke and bring him back to Konoha so he can be questioned. You leave immediately. Hi. Anko and Kurenai said before leaving the office. They told the 3 Mednin to meet them at the front gate in 10 minutes. Kabuto was getting aggravated. Things were going much slower than he had expected. They were now a few hours away from Konoha and still had more than halfway to go. They were now running through the thick forest that separated Hai no Kuni from the other countries. They had been traveling for several hours, and so far they hadn't encountered any shinobi, for which he was grateful. Any delay at this point would be disastrous to them. Seeing as the sun was already pretty high in the sky, they decided to take a small break, get some rest, and eat something. Running out of energy would be very bad, as well. Kakashi and his team were closing in on the Oto Nin according to his and Kiba's nose. Kakashi was a shinobi with extraordinary skills, but he let Kiba take the lead since the boy could use the experience. If Kiba made a mistake, Kakashi would correct him, but so far he has been doing great. Hinata was using her Byakugan to search the area for traps and to spot the enemy. Shino and Naruto were assigned to be their primary attack force, while Sakura would be backup in case of an attack. "I see them," Hinata said, making everyone stop in their tracks. "What do you see in Hinata-chan?" Naruto asked quickly. "They're resting and eating about a mile from here," Hinata said. "There's no sign of Sasuke, but there's a big pail with seals that they're guarding. Kabuto is there, as well." "A pail? Is Sasuke inside it?" Kakashi asked. "I can't see through it," Hinata said sadly. "Alright, let's get closer, and we'll try to surprise them," Kakashi ordered. Slowly they made their way close to the Oto Nin. They had to evade several ingenious traps, but none of them had been triggered, as far as they knew. When they got close enough, Kakashi explained the plan. Naruto was to make several clones and use the hinge to disguise them as the rest of the team. While the cage bunchins were occupying them, the real ones would try to steal the pail away. Naruto nodded and started on his part of the plan. Before they could execute the plan, however, they had to jump away from their hiding place as dozens of kunai rained down on them. "Well, what do we have here?" Kabuto said, smirking. "Haddock Kakashi, Namek is Naruto, and a few genin." "Where's Sasuke?" Kakashi said, inwardly cursing that they had been spotted. "Why did you abduct him?" "Abduct him? Oh, we did no such thing," Kabuto said, smiling. "Sasuke came to us of his own free will. As to his current location, that would be inside that pail." "Kabuto, don't you think it's kind of dangerous to give them that information?" Kidomaru asked. "Come on, Kidomaru. They're just a bunch of pussies," Tayuya said. "Look at them, they're all genin. You would do well not to underestimate Konoha shinobi," Naruto warned them. "We'll do anything to rescue our comrade. You don't get it, do you?" Kabuto laughed loudly. "Sasuke betrayed Konoha for power. He's no longer a comrade of yours." "That doesn't matter," Kiba said. "He's still a shinobi from Konoha, and we won't let you have him." "Then by all means come and take him," Kabuto said. "Get ready." "I'll deal with Kabuto," Kakashi said. "You guys take care of those Oto Nins and get Sasuke back." Kabuto shot forward with a kunai, trying to stab Kakashi in the chest, but Kakashi had already taken out his own kunai and blocked it. The Sound 4 took advantage of the surprised group and grabbed the pail and disappeared into the trees. Naruto cursed and followed them quickly with Kiba and the rest right on his tail. For several minutes they chased the Sound 4 and managed to close in on them pretty quickly. "Shit, they're gaining on us," Tayuya cursed. "I'll hold them down. You guys keep going." Jirabu said, stopping on a tree. "Get Sasuke-sama to Orochimaru-sama." The rest of the Sound 4 nodded at their teammate and continued running at high speed. Jirabu prepared to stop most of the Konoha shinobi and started doing some hand seals. When he noticed the group arriving, he slammed his hand into the ground and a huge wall appeared in front of them, stopping them in their tracks. "This is as far as you go," Jirabu said menacingly. "We don't have time to deal with you, so excuse us if we don't stick around," Naruto said, putting his hand on his sword ready to attack. "Wait, Naruto-kun, Sakura, and I'll deal with this guy," Hinata said, stepping forward. "You guys go get Sasuke." "Alright, Hinata-chan, but be careful. These guys are strong," Naruto said before nodding to Shino and Kiba. They jumped away from Jirabu, who tried to block them in their path, but he had to evade a Jaiken punch courtesy of Hinata. Hinata bought enough time for the rest of the team to get past Jirabu, who easily blocked or evaded her attacks. Hinata was impressed that Jirabu, who was big and large, was able to evade her attacks so easily. She knew that this opponent would be the strongest she had ever faced so far, but she wasn't alone in this fight either. Sakura, who had stayed behind, was anticipating Jirabu's movements, and when he evaded Hinata's last attack, she nailed him straight in the gut with one of her punches. Jirabu doubled over and crashed into a tree. "Good job, Sakura-chan, guess that special training with Tsunade-sama really paid off," Hinata said, praising her friend. I'm still far from mastering Tsunade-sama's strength, but it will have to do for now," Sakura said, beaming. With a scream of frustration, Jirabu jumped out of the rubble and engaged the two girls. They didn't falter and jumped straight into the fight, both using their techniques and skills to deal with this opponent. They both knew that Jirabu was stronger in terms of strength, but they had teamwork and were quicker and more agile than he was. While the girls were having the fight of their lives, the remaining three were still chasing the Odo nins. "Do you think the girls will be alright?" Kiba asked, worried. "They'll be fine," Naruto reassured him. "They have made some extraordinary progress over the past few months." Naruto was also worried about them, but he had to believe in them. He was sure they could defeat their opponent if they fought together. He focused his thoughts on the Odo nins that were still running with Sasuke, trying to get to the border. They had to catch them, no matter what, before they reached the end of Hai no Kuni, otherwise they would have to halt their pursuit. Speeding up a little, they continued the chase. Tayuya, Seiken Yukin, and Kitamura were cursing as they felt their pursuers getting closer. Apparently Jirabu hadn't managed to stop the entire group. If they didn't act soon, then they would have to face all three of the Konoha shinobi while guarding Sasuke, which would hinder them. They had to distract them until Sasuke woke up, and that would only be in about a half hour. Kitamura nodded to his teammates and told them to move on without him. "I'll delay them a bit more," Kitamura said before turning back a bit. Naruto, Kiba, and Shino jumped from tree to tree, and so far they hadn't encountered any traps, so they just raced on. They jumped through the foliage of a tree, only to get caught on a giant spider web that prevented them from moving. Above them, Kitamura looked in glee that he had managed to catch them all. "Welcome to my web," he said loudly. "Damn it, what is this web made of?" Kiba swore loudly, trying to cut it with his kunai. "Don't bother trying to cut my threats," Kitamura said. "They're infused with chakra, making them stronger than metal. Now, while I would like to spend some time playing with you, I'm afraid that's impossible, so I'll just finish you off all three at the same time." He then opened his mouth, and a sticky substance came out of it. He grabbed it with his 6 hands and molded it into the form of a kunai. He threw the 6 kunai at the same time, and the 3 Konoha shinobi got hit by 2 each. His smile disappeared, however, when the 3 of them popped out of existence, making him look around frantically. Suddenly he saw a shadow appear above him, and startled. He looked up only to feel a kick connect to his head, sending him falling down. Before he could reach the ground, however, a figure jumped up to meet him in mid-air and punched him in the jaw, sending him up again. Kitamura winced in pain before his eyes went wide when he heard someone shout "Gatsuga," and he felt something like a huge drill hit him in the back, sending them both crashing into the hard ground. "Nice one, Kiba," Naruto said when the 3 of them landed. "Thanks," Kiba said. "He won't bother us again." Naruto was about to respond when Shino pushed him out of the way. Several kunai-shaped knives embedded themselves into the tree behind him. "Nice attack, but it didn't work," Kitamura said while wiping a trail of blood that came from his mouth. "Now it's my turn." "Naruto, Kiba, you two head on," Shino said. "I'll take care of this." "Are you sure?" Kiba asked, but Naruto had already nodded and bounded away, and he quickly followed. "That's very brave of you. You're willing to sacrifice yourself for your teammates," Kitamura said, not even bothered that Naruto and Kiba had left. "According to my logic, I'm the best placed to defeat you," Shino said calmly. Kitamura didn't say anything and decided to attack. He made some throwing weapons and aimed for Shino, who got ready by taking out a kunai. Shino evaded the first 3 weapons and blocked the last 3 with his kunai before throwing at his opponent. Kitamura didn't even bother blocking it, and he just tilted his head to the side, easily evading it. Shino's attack wasn't done yet, and he quickly went through some hand seals before using the Kaiten Gakakyu no Jutsu, making Kitamura jump out of the way. Shino saw him jump away from the fireball just like had planned and leaped towards him, hitting him in the chest with his elbow. Kitamura felt the blow and winced, but used his multiple hands to grab his adversary and flung him into a bush. Shino, who was surprised that Kitamura had such good use of his 4 extra arms, started making a plan to deal with his opponent. Meanwhile, Kakashi was facing Kabuto, who was one of the stronger opponents he had faced over the past few years. He was surprised that Kabuto had managed to stay undercover for such a long time in Konoha. The man obviously had skills, and to stay at Genin for so long must have been very frustrating for him. Being undercover was something that not everyone could do, and certainly not for such an extensive period of time. Most of them slipped up and made a mistake that blew their cover either by accident or because they got careless. Kabuto, however, had done neither, and this said a lot about his skills. "I've always wondered who was stronger," Kabuto said. "Did you say something?" Kakashi deadpanned casually. "That might work on people like Guy, but not on me, Kakashi." Kabuto laughed, and he attacked once more. Kakashi was a veteran shinobi who had fought during the war with Iwa and had faced Kyuubi itself, so he was no stranger to combat. He knew what kind of fighter Kabuto was. He was a medic nin, so he would mostly focus on using the chakra scalpel trying to cut muscles and tendons. This was a problem, but thanks to his Sharingan he could quite easily evade the blows. Unfortunately, using the Sharingan drained his reserves way too fast, and he knew that Kabuto would use that advantage. So for the time being he tried to fight by resorting to that option. He slapped Kabuto's hand away before throwing out a punch himself trying to nail Kabuto in the gut, but he missed. Not giving up that easily, he did a roundhouse kick that connected with Kabuto's upper arm, momentarily paralyzing it from the blow. Kabuto jumped back and rubbed his arm for a few seconds before he quickly ducked under two kunai thrown by Kakashi. While ducking, Kabuto used several shuriken that Kakashi dodged by jumping over them. "Not bad, but you should really hurry up and try to defeat me," Kabuto smirked. "The Sound 4 are strong, and they won't give up Sasuke without a fight. As a former Konoha shinobi, you should know just how strong we get when we fight for those we think are precious," Kakashi answered while holding his kunai in front of him. "Ah, but that's where the problems start, isn't it?" Kabuto said, smiling. "Tell me, how many of those genin actually consider Sasuke as a friend or a precious person? Sasuke is one of us. It doesn't matter if he's a jerk and arrogant," Kakashi said calmly. "He's still a Konoha shinobi. That's enough for us." "Do you truly believe that crap?" Kabuto sneered. "That's the difference between a traitor and a true Konoha shinobi," Kakashi said. "Someone like you wouldn't be able to understand." Kakashi wasted no time explaining something Kabuto would never understand and attacked once more with a kunai in hand. Kabuto quickly took one of his own kunai and parried it, making sparks when the two weapons made contact. They jumped and ran all over the place trying to fill the place with the sound of metal crashing into metal and fiery sparks appearing everywhere. If the fight had been at night it would have made beautiful but deadly scenery. Seiken and Taiyuya were the only two left to protect Sasuke until he woke up, and they knew that they were being followed. It was bad luck that the Konoha shinobi were of great numbers so that they could fight each member of the Sound 4 and still chase after Sasuke. Not only that, they also seemed strong enough to keep Jirabu and Kidomaru from catching up again, meaning they might be defeated after all. "How long until Sasuke-sama wakes up?" Seiken asked Taiyuya. "How the hell should I know when that prissy prick wakes up?" Taiyuya snapped back in her usual tone. "Shit, they're getting closer again," Seiken cursed. Taiyuya didn't say anything because she had to dodge dozens of kunai that suddenly rained down on her. She slipped from the tree branch she was landing on and fell down to the ground. Luckily for her, she had managed to turn over and landed neatly on her feet. She immediately looked around for her attacker while Seiken landed next to her. Not a second later, Naruto and Kiba arrived as well. "Nice job on the kunai cage bunshin no jutsu," Kiba remarked. "Thanks, it's very useful at times like this." Naruto smiled. "We finally caught up with you guys," Kiba said to the remaining members of the Sound 4. "Give us Sasuke, and you might live to see another day. Like we would hand over Sasuke-sama to the likes of you," Seiken said calmly. "Sasuke-sama?" Naruto snorted. "Clearly you have no idea what the guy is like, because if you did you wouldn't call him that. Sasuke-sama is the precious vessel for Orochimaru-sama," Seiken said, sneering. "It's in our best interests to deliver him as soon as possible." "Well, that's not going to happen," Naruto said, smiling. "You see, I made it my hobby to annoy Snakeface as much as possible. You should try it once, you'll see it's great fun." Seiken smirked and gave Taiyuya a small hand sign that showed her that she needed to get ready. Naruto and Kiba saw it too and were immediately on guard for an attack. To their surprise, the attack came from behind, and they only managed to evade because they heard the sound of shuriken and kunai flying through the air. They jumped to the side, and it was then that they noticed that something was wrong with Seiken. "Kiba, didn't that guy have two heads when we first saw him?" Naruto was shocked that he had missed to notice that. "Shit, you're right." Kiba noticed it as well. Tayuya didn't lose any time, and, as soon as Naruto and Kiba were distracted by the attack, she grabbed the pail and ran away. Seiken had told her that he would delay them so she could protect Sasuke until he woke up. Jumping through the trees as fast as she could, she looked back, seeing her teammate preparing to fight. "Shit, that girl has Sasuke," Kiba yelled in frustration. "Naruto, go get her. I'll deal with this guy." "Right, but be careful, Kiba," Naruto said. "There's something strange with this guy." "Don't worry about me, Anakamaru," Kiba said. "We'll be fine. Go get Sasuke back." Naruto nodded and made a dozen cage bunshin so Seiken wouldn't know which one to stop and started chasing Tayuya. He was going to kill Sasuke if one of his friends got injured because of him. He shook his head clear of such thoughts and tried to calm down. He had to stay calm and not let his emotions get the best of him, just like Anko had taught him. He couldn't afford any mistakes or slip-ups if he wanted to get Sasuke back. Kiba and Akamaru were sizing up their adversary. So far they hadn't seen any techniques, but he knew something was seriously wrong with this guy. While Naruto had run off, Kiba had lost sight of Seiken for a split second, and when he found him again, the guy had his second head back. He would have to be very careful about this, he realized. Akamaru too could feel something was wrong and told his owner to stay on guard. Deciding that the best defense is an offense, Kiba attacked first. He ran towards Seiken and engaged him with Taijutsu. Kiba had learned a lot from Naruto's way of fighting, and though the Inuzuka had their own way of fighting, he had managed to combine some techniques. He dodged a punch from Seiken and grabbed it and pulled him closer while slamming his elbow into Seiken's ribs. To his surprise, a hand blocked his elbow, but what was really freaking Kiba out was that the hand seemed to come out of Seiken's midriff. He quickly jumped back and stared at the strange sight before him. Seiken smirked evilly and attacked by driving Kiba against a tree so he couldn't back up anymore. Kiba cursed, knowing that he was in a bad situation, but before Seiken could do anything, Akamaru jumped from Kiba's jacket and clawed Seiken in the face, making him scream in pain. Kiba didn't waste the opportunity and kicked Seiken in the face before using his Gatsuga to hit him in the chest, sending him flying. "Thanks, Akamaru," Kiba said when he landed. Tayuya was cursing loudly while jumping through the trees. She couldn't believe her bad luck. She was the only one left of the Sound Four, and while she was no pushover, she was the weakest of them all. She didn't doubt that one of those two Konoha shinobi was already following her, meaning she would have to fight as well, leaving the prick she was carrying unguarded. She was about to curse some more when she felt movement inside the pail. She quickly stopped and sat the pail on the ground, backing up a little. She saw that the seals that were preventing the pail from being opened were slowly burning up. If she had to guess, in a few minutes Sasuke would wake up ready to fight. "Come on, asshole, wake the fuck up," Tayuya yelled loudly. "You shouldn't shout at people who are just waking up," a voice said. "It tends to make people wake up in a bad mood." "Shit, so you already caught up with me," Tayuya said, looking at Naruto from the ground. "It's over. My teammates will deal with your friends, and we'll take Sasuke back to Konoha," Naruto said, jumping from the tree to ground level. "You seem to think that I'll let you pass without a fight?" the sound girl said, biting her thumb and doing some hand seals before putting her hands on the ground. Naruto recognized the hand seals as a summoning jutsu and prepared himself. Tayuya loudly said Kuchiyu's no jutsu, and Naruto watched in amazement how 3 giant ogres appeared behind her. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, and they looked to be very strong. He wondered how she would fight using them and was shocked when she took out a small flute out of her pocket. "Let me play you a melody of death for you," Tayuya smirked. Naruto made 2 cage bunshin and got ready for the attack. As soon as the girl put her flute to her mouth and started playing, the ogres started their attacks. Each ogre attacked a Naruto who evaded the attacks. Naruto noticed that the ogres were very strong, judging that they destroyed the tree he was standing on with only 1 attack. They were also slower than him. He easily evaded the attacks and took some distance from them. The ogres were a menace, he realized, and they kept him from getting closer to the girl, effectively protecting her and Sasuke. The girl seemed perfectly calm, and Naruto guessed she was very confident in her skills in controlling her ogres. She saw how she smiled and started playing once more. He braced himself for another attack, but surprisingly the ogres didn't move an inch. He looked in amazement and was shocked how they opened their mouths and something white came out. It looked like some kind of chakra, but what really surprised him was that the things had mouths as well. The tune of her song changed, and the ogres shot forward with the white appendixes still hanging out. The real Naruto managed to dodge the ogre that came to him with the two clones who weren't so lucky. They got pierced by the white chakra, and Naruto looked on as the clones were absorbed. Wondering what had happened, he quickly made some few dozen cage buncheons and ordered them to attack the ogres while he dealt with the girl who summoned them. Tayuya smirked as she saw her ogres demolish the clones and feasted on their chakra. The blonde didn't stand a chance if all he did was make clones. On the contrary, he would only provide her with extra chakra, which suited her fine, of course. She guessed the real one was hiding in the mass of clones, so sooner or later the ogres would hit the real one or he would be the only one left. Suddenly she heard a loud hissing sound from behind her, and she saw that the pail released a thick dark mist from inside. Knowing that Sasuke could wake up any second, she used her flute to order her ogres to step up the attacks. Naruto wasn't hiding amongst the other clones. Instead, he was sitting just above them waiting for a chance to attack. He had a clone next to him, so he could use him in the attack he had planned. He needed to get rid of those things as fast as he could. He too had seen what happened with the pail, and he had come to the same conclusion. Sasuke was about to wake up, and he would need to stop him. Naruto unsheathed his sword and waited for the precise moment the three ogres were aligned. The clones followed the original Naruto's actions as well. He focused a lot of chakra into the seal of his sword, and just then the ogres did what he wanted them to do. Tenju Seidan K's no jutsu, both Narutos yelled out, and just like the time during his fight with Momochi's abusive, a cross made out of wind appeared and cut straight through the three ogres. Tayuya cursed loudly as her summons were destroyed and was about to attack when the pail exploded and Sasuke stood up. Naruto looked at Sasuke and saw that his hair was much longer and white in color. Not only was the color of his hair different, his skin was much darker as well. Tayuya and Naruto watched as Sasuke started to laugh loudly before he jumped into the trees and disappeared again. "Sasuke, what happened to you?" Naruto said out loud. Thanks for watching my video. Leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. If you want the next part of this story, let me know in the comment box. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.